Dream interpretation, or dream talking, is a new item enhancement system added in the Twinightmare season to Torchlight Infinite. This is used to enhance finished items with very powerful, even game-breaking bonuses, such as taking a rare that's fully crafted up and adding the best modifier from a legendary item. The downside here is that the crafting process is highly random, which means it can get very expensive if you want something perfect. You can only equip 3 items with dream interpretation mods, and your item cannot be modified by normal crafting afterwards. So there are some downsides to balance out the power. And today, I'm going to go over the 2 forms of dream interpretation, a little bit about what you should do and when you should do it, also the power it offers, then wrap everything up with how I've been using it in my current build. Now, I recently talked about my build and some of the dream crafts that I used in it. If you want to see a finished version, stay tuned as I might showcase it in a future stream or video, or if you're interested in other gaming topics, do be sure to get subscribed, leave a like while you're down there, and for now, let's get into things. So first up, normal dream interpretation requires shallow dream talking, a fairly common drop from interacting with the Twinightmare mechanic. It adds a positive sweet dream affix and a negative nightmare affix. And yes, the negative nightmare affix is mandatory. You can't just get the good stuff. This replaces the item's implicit. So if you're using something for its implicit, this is not an item that you want to use dream interpretation on. Let's go over to Patty in Town and take a look at the interface. You can find Patty in Town, or after interacting with the Twinightmare mechanic, just select Dream Interpretation. So these are all the outcomes for your item, such as Happy Dream that has a huge pool of modifiers. Don't worry, this gets a lot smaller. So let's just say I wanted to use some dream interpretation on this helmet. The helmet's already pretty good, but it could be a little bit better. I can select Happy Dream and see here are all the options. I can go faster, get some cast speed, reduce my skill cost, help out minions, get attack speed, or be immune to blinding or have less dot damage taken. Or I could get Lucky Dream, where when a random affix number 1 to 6 is lower than tier 1 or 2, upgrade it by 1 or 2 tiers. The Confusing Dream adds legendary modifiers, such as adding 3% of physical damage as fire, cold, and lightning to synthetic troop minions when you have command. Or restoring life and energy shield when a sentry lands a critical strike once a second. Many of these are very powerful, but should be used with caution. It replaces a random mod on your item. Then on Auspicious Dream, this just max divines all the affixes. So this is a range. You can see the range here. It would put it at 432. With upsides come downsides, such as downgrading an affix by up to 3 tiers, or affixes adjacent to a random affix are reduced by up to 2 tiers. Then with a Haunting Dream, you can downgrade all suffixes or all prefixes. That one's pretty darn devastating. And the Ominous Dream replaces an affix with a blemish. Now, I want to let you in on a little bit of a secret. And fair warning, this might be changed in the future. But right now, this item has 5 total mods. If you replace the empty mod slot with a blemish, there's no mod there, so nothing gets replaced, and it's a free affix without a downside. Also, in some cases, you can downgrade the tier of a mod without really negatively impacting your item, so that one can be pretty good as well. Such as, because that slot's empty, well, maybe all the mods adjacent to the max spell burst get downgraded, which would be the empty slot and the cold res. If your cold res only needs to be like 20, that's also a downside you can completely ignore. So oftentimes, it's about finding the upsides within the downsides. It is incredibly difficult and expensive to make a perfect item, but relatively easy to make something useful. Furthermore, you can use the advanced form of dream interpretation with profound dream talking. This is quite a bit more expensive, and it puts a guaranteed legendary affix on your item. These are exactly the same as before, but with much higher values, such as getting 40% of the increase or decrease on cast speed is also applied to attack speed. It replaces a random affix that is between tier 2 and 4. So you already need a good affix on your item. You can't replace a dead mod if you're going to be using the Delighted Dream. On the other hand, this version also has more powerful modifiers for the other slots, such as using Romantic Dream, which gives up to 2 max focus blessings, something that is very, very powerful, and I should probably have on my gear, to be honest with you. Or alternatively, you can upgrade things by up to 3 tiers, or replace the implicit with any of these. In comparison to the other mods, I'm going to be honest, these are pretty lackluster in a lot of cases, but hey, you might find a use for a massive amount of minion max life, or massively reduced skill cost. Beware though, the downsides are pretty much the same as before, where it downgrades or completely replaces a mod on your item, such as with the blemish here. Regular dream interpretation can be used as many times as you want. The only limiting factor is how much currency you have. But the advanced dream interpretation uses up readability. So let's say on my current character's weapon, you'll notice it's crossed out because the readability is 0. I've already used up all of this item's potential, and I can't get any of those super juicy mods. Unfortunately, it didn't roll anything good during the attempt. So I'm just stuck with an item that's forever imperfect. But hey, at least I used Dream Talking to put some good stuff on it anyway. Now let's just do a quick crafting example using this helmet. So I'll select Dream Interpretation. I could replace the number 2 affix, I could adjust for range, or I could be immune to blinding. If I don't want any of these, I can abandon. That gets rid of the attempt, the currency is lost, but your item is unchanged. So let's try that again. Well, I still don't want to replace the number 2 affix, but maybe cast speed's pretty sweet. It's helpful for my build, so I'm going to put it on, especially since it recovers your spell burst. So I'll record that. Now I have to pick a downside, such as replacing this with a blemish, or replacing this with a tier 3 mod, or the adjacent affixes of this are reduced by 2. So let's do this just for the sake of example. And now that's gone down to T4. It's quite a bit less ES, but I have the nice shiny cast speed mod. I could come here and revert it in its entirety. This would remove the mod and restore this back up to T2. Or alternatively, I can try to roll over it, because maybe I'm happy with it, but not super happy. So I'll try Dream Interpretation. All right, I don't want any of those. I'll try again. There we go, cast speed, record. I could replace this with a blemish, downgrade this, or downgrade both prefixes. So now I've made my item even worse. This is why when you are chasing perfect items with Dream Talking, it can get very expensive, because you'll be rolling, and the downsides are random. Like this. Here we go, I can downgrade the cold res, and I'm just going to pretend that my build doesn't really need the cold res. So it's gone down to T6, 27% is either a dead mod anyway, or just not something that matters to me. And I now have a much better helmet with 19% cast speed. So in this case, it was a fairly inexpensive item to finish, but trust me, you can use hundreds or thousands if you're unlucky. And so that's the basics of using both the normal and advanced dream interpretation. Remember, normal requires shallow dream talking, and advanced requires profound dream talking, which is a pretty rare drop within the Nightmare, or a drop from Queen Paloma, the seasonal boss, and legendary materials, which are used to guarantee a specific legendary affix, replacing a tier 4 to tier 2 mod. You can do normal dream interpretation as much as you want, but advanced dream interpretation can only be done by up to 3 times per item. And once those readings are gone, there's no way to get them back. Once you've used dream talking on an item, you can't craft it, which can be problematic because as the item affixes are upgraded and downgraded, it does reroll the values and your item can end up worse than when you started. But it also offers quite a lot of power. And so it's very much something that you should be using as part of your character progression. Just don't be too picky. Well, don't be too picky most of the time, because there's one situation where you can, and where dream talking is completely insane. Let's get into that a little bit as well. So here we have an unassuming pair of gloves, but you'll notice that they require level 46 and they are level 55. For whatever reason, at least as of the recording of this video, item level 60 and lower items do not actually have a cost to do dream interpretation. So let's say you wanted that massive 46 to 56 fire damage to attacks and spells, which is equal to a tier 1 endgame affix. You can just apply it. And you don't like any of these? Oh, you don't want to replace it with a blemish? Well, that's fine. Just confirm and go again. And, oh, maybe this time. Your fervor effect gains additional bonuses. All right, that sounds pretty awesome. And you replaced a mod. Now, oh, this could be reduced. You could replace that with a blemish, or you could downgrade that. Maybe you're not happy with any of these. Well, just go again. You can repeat this as much as you want. The only thing that you are spending here is your time and precious, precious sanity. So I wouldn't go too wild with it. But hey, once you get something that you're happy with, now you have a super awesome, insanely overpowered leveling item to absolutely blast through the early Nether realm. Now, if you're thinking, okay, but what about advanced dream talking? Can I get some of those super, super OP affixes? You know, like the legendary stuff on my low level gear? No, the low item level stuff doesn't actually have any readings, so you can't do that. But hey, it was worth a try, and the overall interaction is pretty neat. So I wish you good luck in your dream interpretation crafting. Remember, settling for something is totally fine because aiming for perfection gets very expensive. There are items where to roll the perfect affixes I've spent hundreds of flame elementium and probably thousands of shallow dream talking. Also, there are times where I've burned all of my items' readings and a couple hundred flame elementium without any meaningful, tangible results because I kept rolling the worst possible things to be replaced. If you want something good and functional, the system is relatively easy to engage with, and I think anyone can and should be doing so. But for perfection, it gets very expensive, just like how double corrosion gets very expensive if you want to do it, but the regular corrosion on some easy to find or low cost legendaries is very easy and beginner friendly. I like systems that have a relatively low floor, but a high ceiling for the best of the best. I just wish this one was a little bit less random and there were a few ways to target things by expending extra currency. Who knows though, the system could easily see a revamp in the future or improvements if Twinightmare Season goes core. And remember, be sure to do your nightmares as that's the way to get all the currency you're going to spend to enhance your items. Now, for me personally, I find some of the most impactful are gloves. There are just so many completely insane mods there. Beyond gloves, you can also find some very good legendary mods on certain weapons and certain helmets, though many of the best are going to be limited to the advanced dream interpretation. And last up, because you can undo everything at any time, just remember, as long as you haven't used advanced and used up your items readings, there's no real way to cause permanent damage. With that said, I'm curious, have you experimented with any dream mods yet? And if so, which ones do you think are the most broken? Leave your thoughts down below, and if you haven't, let me know what cool things you're hoping to craft after watching this video. Now, if you want to know more about how I made some of my currency or what are the builds that I've been playing, I'll link to some of those up in the card and down below, along with a written version of this guide over at MaxwellGG. With that said, I'd like to take a moment to thank my patrons and channel members for their continued support. It's through your support that I'm able to make videos like this one, which aren't necessarily as popular in the YouTube algorithm, but I think make a difference. So link to support is also down below, and you might even see your name on screen like these fine folks here. With that said, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Good luck with your crafting. Remember, don't gamble with currency you can't afford to lose, and hopefully I'll see you again sometime soon.